I'm Yvonne, and here's what happened this week. Taiwan's lawmakers have upheld controversial reforms that expand the power of the legislature. The bill was passed by opposition lawmakers in May, but the cabinet called parts of it unconstitutional and asked for it to be reconsidered. Louis Watt reports from the legislature.
Lawmakers here at Taiwan's legislature have voted to keep contested amendments that expand their powers. Reforms that have been criticized by President Lai Ching-te's governing party as an overreach of power. The changes give lawmakers powers to summon people to provide information, including the president, under threat of fines and prison. The opposition has pushed these changes. They say they're about improving government oversight and combating corruption. But they're controversial. They've previously sparked physical fights in the legislature and brought tens of thousands of protesters out onto the streets. They fear it's going to destroy the balance of power between the president, the executive branch, and the legislature. And they're accusing opposition lawmakers of forcing the bill through without proper discussion. President Lai's cabinet asked this opposition-dominated legislature to review the amendments. Their response is no. But the fight is not yet over. President Lai's party has previously said that they think the amendments are unconstitutional and that their next step would be to fight it in court. Patrick Chen and Louise Watt in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's president has laid out new national policy plans and will personally lead task forces to tackle 3 global challenges. Joyce Dunn has the latest.
A month into the role, Taiwan's new president, Lai Ching-te, has launched 3 special councils, which Lai will preside over himself, that focus on national defense, healthcare, and climate change, all to equip Taiwan to face what Lai calls global challenges. He says that climate change is humanity's biggest obstacle and has reaffirmed Taiwan's commitment to net zero emissions by 2050. On defense, Lai spoke about protecting people in Taiwan against natural disasters and cybercrime in addition to military threats. Addressing Beijing's growing threat to invade Taiwan, Lai says he will only keep strengthening Taiwan's self-defense, including by ramping up civil preparedness, which will be a key focus of the new Defense Council.
台湾人民热爱和平，与人为善，但和平必须要靠实力，也就是透过备战来达到避战，而达到和平。空口白话不是真和平，靠实力达到了和平，才有保障，才是真正的和平。
Now it's been a busy month for Lai and his vice president, Bi Kim-hsiao. Taiwan has seen Chinese military drills around the country in direct response to Lai's inauguration. And within its borders, the passing of a contested legislative bill has sparked widespread protests and prompted the cabinet to override it by forcing a revote. Here, Lai has set a tone of openness, taking questions from the media to address these issues, something that his predecessor, Tsai Ing-wen, rarely did during her 2 terms in office. And it's this open dialogue that Lai hopes will be central to the newly announced councils. They will begin meeting quarterly and include reps across the government, industry, and academia, all to provide the resources needed to ensure a safe and prosperous future for Taiwan. Patrick Chen and Joyce Zhen in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's Manland Affairs Council is warning people to be careful when traveling in China after 8 retired military and police staff were detained there in the past year.
他们是要掌握当事人在任职期间的工作啦，同事啊，人脉网络，也不排除他们在留置调查的时候趁机拉拢、吸收为中共工作。
The council is responsible for handling relations with China. It says there have been multiple cases of retired military personnel trying to recruit others to work for Beijing in recent years. It's urging former service members to be on guard while in China. The family of a Kinmen fisher detained in China is calling on the government to do more to secure his release. The fisher, surnamed Hu, was rescued by the Chinese Coast Guard in March after his boat drifted into Chinese waters during heavy fog. whose family believes that he hasn't been released because of ongoing tensions over the deaths of 2 Chinese fishers in February. They died in Taiwan's waters when their boat overturned while being chased by the country's Coast Guard.
我们家属一直认为这个应该是跟渔船的事情有关系。那我们请政府说，赶快去把渔船这个事情来把它解决，用同理心。你2个渔船的尸体放在这边，同样的那边的家属也是会很着急。
Taiwan has wrapped up live-fire military exercises along the western coast of New Taipei. It's part of efforts to make the country's training as realistic as possible. But as Jaime Ocon reports, there are concerns that many of its drills are too scripted.
One by one, Taiwanese soldiers practice their shooting. They're trying to step up their training in a rare chance for them to use live ammunition on this public beach. Exercises like these are becoming more common due to pressure from neighboring China, which has threatened to invade Taiwan to bring it under its control. So Taiwan has now narrowed down potential areas where an attack could begin. This area is known as the Red Beach. That means Taiwan's military considers it a likely spot for China to land troops and begin an invasion. That's why the military is making sure it knows how to defend this coastline. This beach, known as Zhongfu Beach, is crucial for Taiwan's defense due to its proximity to the country's largest airport. The beach also sits between a major wind farm and one of Taiwan's largest ports. But what makes this area even more strategic is that it's only 20 kilometers away from the capital city of Taipei.
They want to land in the north so that they can rapidly attack and capture the capital. The problem is that, of course, the Taiwanese know that also and have a lot of their forces up in the north. So it is important to be able to hold the north so that if the Chinese are going to land, they'll land in the south, and that's a much more difficult campaign.
But as an island country, Taiwan's shores are on the front line. Just last week, a man from China arrived on Taiwan shores via speedboat, an event likely to increase scrutiny over the military's coastal defense strategy. Taiwan has recently taken training into public places like these to get troops familiar with how a potential war could be fought. But military analysts say the drills are not realistic enough.
Live fire on the actual beach is better, certainly, than shooting on a range. But still, if we're talking realistic and rigorous, we're talking about combat conditions. And I will simply tell you, under modern conditions of warfare, you do not want your troops laid out in a big line in a big open space like a beach, because they're just a natural target.
This lack of realistic training is concerning many analysts in the U.S. who say Taiwan's military exercises are too scripted. One example is a decades-old exercise in which a team in red practices invading the port of Taipei, while a team in blue defends. But the problem here is that the blue team seems to always win.
The big exercises always seem to go back to red team, blue team, and red team is clearly following a script that blue team already has in advance, and that is just a very bad way to train your leaders to make decisions. You need to combine that very scripted training with also training which is not live fire, where you are allowing your leaders to make decisions and to respond to a thinking enemy that isn't just operating on a script.
Yet Taiwan's military is starting to incorporate more realistic training across the armed forces, and these live fire drills are just a small part of it. Taiwan's military says the upcoming large-scale Hanguang exercises in July will have an unscripted element, a move in the right direction when facing such an unpredictable enemy. Annie Shui and Jaime Ocon in New Taipei City for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan has become the world's 5th largest importer of Russian coal. That's according to a new report by the nonprofit Environmental Rights Foundation and the independent research organization, the Center for Research on Energy and Clean Air. One of the companies that's importing Russian coal is Formosa Plastics. Protesters have descended on their annual general meeting. Sally Jensen was there.
Activists are outside the annual general meeting of Taiwan's biggest petrochemical company, Formosa Plastics, saying it is effectively facilitating Russia's war in Ukraine. Formosa Plastics imports coal from Russia's energy giant Siberian Coal Energy Company, which environmental groups say has close ties to the Russian military. Russian environmentalist Vladimir Sliviak has gone in to confront Formosa's shareholders at the AGM.
And I'm here to demand from Formosa Plastics to stop all kinds of businesses with Russia, to stop buying Russian coal or anything else from Russia. And the reason is very simple, because as long as you pay to Moscow, it will continue war in Ukraine. More and more people will be dead there.
Activists here are also protesting years-long pollution from Formosa's activities in Vietnam.
Formosa Plastics, stop harming! Formosa Plastics, stop harming!
They say that the conglomerate's actions are inconsistent with international efforts to cut economic ties with Russia. And blocs like the EU have already put heavy sanctions on Russian coal, oil and gas, which are its main exports, to suffocate funds that likely go towards the country's invasion of Ukraine that escalated in 2022. These activists say that continuing buying energy from Russia reflects badly on Taiwan and could damage Taiwan's relationship with Western democracies. Patrick Chen and Sally Jensen in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
A power outage that turned a Taipei technology park dark for more than 1 hour is raising concerns over just how ready the country is to host big tech firms like NVIDIA. The outage is just the latest in a string of blackouts to hit Taiwan. John Ventriest reports.
Taipei's Neihu Technology Park shut down. For over an hour on Tuesday, the power went out after an underground cable connector broke. Only 655 power customers were affected, and around half had power restored within the first 3 minutes. But these aren't ordinary power users. They include the sorts of big tech companies at the core of Taiwan's economy. For varying lengths of time, work just stopped.
它是瞬间停的嘛，它不是像说预告停电这样子，可以提前准备了。仪器设备没有电就没办法运作了，所以原本一些实验的东西，可能就要等电来的时候才能再去做，就没办法上班这样。我们出来买午餐还没付电，它那个是那个公司的紧急电器，大概5到10秒就来了。 The
economy minister says this is the result of equipment failure, not a power supply problem. And he says blackouts like this happen.
我们发现了很多像这种跳电就是说它有一个趋势嘛，就是说可能人比较多的地方啊，或者是突然间增加很多人的地方啊，或者那个设备比较旧。
Equipment failures and accidents are behind several blackouts in recent years, from a nationwide outage in 2021 to more recent problems in the northern city of Taoyuan near Taipei. The state-owned Taiwan Power Company, or Taipower, says it conducts regular checks, but that the weather, the age of equipment, or maintenance issues mean blackouts are hard to avoid. But this may not be good enough for power-hungry tech companies.
Jensen Huang, CEO of NVIDIA, the world's most valuable company, wants to set up a headquarters in Taiwan. But he says Taiwan needs more power. It's not just the amount of power that counts, though. As Tuesday's blackout shows, it doesn't take much to disrupt the supply, no matter how much power there is to go around. Scott Huang and John Ventriest in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's Fisheries Agency has seized a ship with 6.5 metric tons of illegal shark fins on board. Officials estimate the crew of the Taiwan-flagged vessel took the fins from at least 3,000 sharks. And it's not the first time the ship has been busted. In 2021, it was fined around $150,000 for the same offense. They could be fined $75,000 this time and have their fishing license revoked for 2 years. Shark finning involves cutting off a shark's fins, then releasing it back into the water where it dies slowly. The practice is outlawed in Taiwan and many other countries. But it persists because of the demand for shark fin soup, which is considered a delicacy in the region. Thank you for watching. Here's what happened. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, take a sneak peek of these performing arts groups that are heading to several European festivals this summer. I'm Yvonne Young. Take care, and I'll see you next time.